seconds. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Saturday and welcome to the Success Code Fireside Chats where we only do conscious leadership, meaning business and real talk. And y'all know we do mostly real talk. So this week has been a week, y'all. Let me tell you, it's no joke. So if most of you are following me, you know that I'm building this event for June. And let me tell you one of the lessons I've learned. Oh, by the way, this guy wants me to come on a podcast to share the lessons I've learned while I'm building this event, which is so cool. I'm so excited for that. But let me start by sharing with you right now. When you commit to something that you, by no holds barred, right? If you're in my world, you always hear me talk about commitment. Commitment is not, oh, it didn't work, so I won't do it. No. Commitment is it didn't work, what didn't work, what can we tweak, and then we move forward. So doing this event this week has been like, wow, all the things that I thought would have worked the way they were supposed to work, or my idea of how it should have worked, didn't work. So I got to pivot, y'all. I got to pivot. So I want to start the show today by telling you, I don't usually tell you, I usually invite you, but this time I'm telling you, because remember, we're in real talk. I'm telling you, don't be attached to the outcome. Don't be attached to the outcome, because being attached to the outcome is what causes the fear. It's what causes the anxiety. It's what causes the resistance, right? And those things don't allow movement, right? So I'm inviting you into that. I just wanted to share that with you as we go into today's show. And I'm super excited to have my guest in the conversation today. Danielle Childs is an amazing entrepreneur. We're going to talk about her journey a little bit today in the conversation, because I was having a conversation with her earlier this week, and when I heard her story, I was like, "Yo, girl, you got to come. You got to come on my show, because people get to hear this. Because success is not linear. It's not linear. It's not like we keep going. That's the perfect idea of burnout, right? Success is steps, and you go up the step, and you go up the step, and you go up the step. So I like to bring people on the show to share their stories with us and to share what worked and what didn't work, so that it shortcuts your experience, right? Should you choose to adapt any of the ideas that may come forth from them. Because I believe that we are here to learn from each other. So I'm excited for Danielle Childs to be here today. And Danielle, I want to bring you forward to share a little bit about yourself. And then I'm going to ask the question I always ask all of my guests. And then we're going to keep taking it from there. So jump in and just give us your joy, girl. Give us your joy.
Hey, Lorna, thank you so much for inviting me here. I am just really excited, and I just feel so honored to be a part of what you have going on. And I think this whole chat about success and what it looks like from all different angles and standpoints and from everyone's perspective, coming into a space where we can bring all of that and really uncover, truly what it is for each of us. What does it look like? So I have been married for almost 33 years to my high school sweetheart, kind of the whole like cheerleader, basketball player kind of, mushy, whatever. All good. We have 2 adult children. We have a 22-year-old daughter and a 26-year-old son. And both of us have been in business. Probably, I mean, I would say from the beginning of our marriage, I started in corporate America. Back then, I thought, they tell you one thing in college, you're going to get out and you're going to be making this kind of money. And so that's what I had my heart set on, and moving up the career path in a corporate executive setting. And after about 5 years, I realized this was definitely not for me. And there was a lot of things going on that I didn't realize that necessarily would show up in a corporate setting. A lot of like
Mhm.
backstabbing. And there was a woman that I worked with, and she would kind of take credit for everything I was doing. And there was it really wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And so I ended up turning a hobby of interior decorating into a business, and worked with some women for a few years, and then actually started my own interior decorating business and worked commercially and also for residential clients. And part of that was, I look back, being in people's homes, like um, they're inviting me into their space, like their private space, and really giving me the opportunity to, share my thoughts and ideas, kind of based on like how they live and what they're looking for. And I did that for probably about 8 years, and loved it. However, can you hear my dog in the background? I just want
Yeah, I can, but
okay. Sorry about that. My mother-in-law was supposed to be helping. This is how we shift, right? Things don't always go quite as planned. But anyway, so just
exactly.
being in people's space, and just in their intimate, like in their bedrooms, in their bathrooms, in their kitchens, all of that. Like who are they, and how do they want to live? And really, it's not a house, like it's their home. So
Mhm.
that was just an amazing journey there. And then during that time, I actually really looked successful on the outside, and I was. Based on what I thought success looked like back then. But I had
Mhm.
outspent my income, and so put myself.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second, Danielle, because you're jumping right in, girl. You're jumping right in, because this is gonna get juicy. It's about to get juicy. It's about to get juicy. So I want to piggyback before you
Okay.
go there, because this is good. I love the way you shared that journey. And it's so funny because it's a similar journey for me. Corporate America was like this thing that was like, who are you people? Like seriously? Where people thought that um taking the what you call it, the taking on the thing that you did was their responsibility. Like, what do you get to do? Like, why are you taking from me? That doesn't even make sense. You're here to do something. But anyway, I love that you brought that to the conversation. But before we go forward, I want to hear your definition, because you kind of like flew over it just now. So I want to hear, what is your definition of success? Because obviously something shifted for you
Huge.
when from corporate to where you went into business for yourself,
Yeah.
even until now. So I'm hearing that success. It sounds like that definition changed about 3 times, is what I heard just now. But I would love
Definitely.
to hear your definition of success.
Yeah. So there is definitely a before and an
Mhm,
after. And then,
mhm,
like we had talked about, this continuing on. It continues to evolve, and really, like I get clearer every day of what does success look like to me. So the before, let me just paint the before picture of what
mhm,
was my idea of success. My
mhm,
idea of success was making a lot of money,
mhm,
was the status, was the titles, was the letters after my name. My husband had a very successful business. And so definition of success was to be able to run parallel with him and run the same race and maybe even make as much money as he was. Like that to me, that the accolades, the pat on the back, the recognition, all of that, I would say would pretty much summarize what I thought success was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because
Yeah.
I think that, and I had the same idea of success as well. So I think it's a cultural, human, or maybe just American. Maybe it could be, but I don't think it's just American because we have the same thing in Jamaica, where success meant that you had the cars, you had the big, you actually lived in a certain area, right, and
Yeah.
you had all the things, and
Things.
yeah, and some people still live like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I say that on the show every time I ask my guests, and they give me some idea of that, something of how that looks. I always say there's nothing wrong with that, and it's if you want to look at abundance, we're supposed to have that too, right? If abundance of things, but it depends on how you your relationship with the things, right? So
Yeah,
so
relationship things. That's
so
so
let's
good.
yeah, so let's move forward into a little bit of you know what it took what it
Mm-hmm.
took for you to go through the phases
Yeah.
of the different distinctions of success as you were moving through your life and even up until now. Like what was, like for me, um similar to you, I came from corporate America, then I went into real estate on my own, now building coaching and all the things, and success at every stage looked
Mm.
different, right? And
Yeah.
at some point, even in real estate as well, I remember one point, and I talk about this all the time, in 2008 when the market almost went to crap, right? I could have said I wasn't successful anymore because I wasn't selling as much as I
Mm-hmm.
was before, like I'm used to selling. And then I had to shift my mindset around it and shift into something else, right? So along the way, it was just noticing how I was responding to what was happening
Yeah.
and aligning that with what my idea of success should look like. And even
Yeah.
now, every day it's a different distinction for me of what
Mm.
success gets to look like. Because some of my coaches, they only talk about success as making decisions fast, doing everything fast, 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 fast. And yes, there's some truth to that, but I believe that if you're making decisions fast without awareness and without the correct data and correct information, it could be the wrong move. So let's talk about that, right? Like that's
Definitely.
my experience. What's
Mhm.
your experience
Mhm.
around it?
Mhm. Um,
And it could be
y-
different.
yeah,
We're not here to agree.
absolutely. Yeah, there were different stages in my life. And I never thought all of it together just made sense. It felt so random, corporate America, interior decorating, and I started a Mary Kay business. And there was a lot of striving and a lot of success in that, but again, something missing. And then I my husband and I opened a fitness business where I ran that for 16 years. And again, kind of that definition of success. What does
So
that
hold
look
on,
like?
hold on, hold on.
Yeah.
Well, so sorry to interrupt, but were you running? You said that was 16 years. So were you running that while you were doing Mary Kay and while
Yeah.
you were doing the
So,
interior decorating,
so
or
great question. Think of my life, like the whole entire life of my children and then some. So 30 years of starting, for a short time in corporate America, and then the rest of it was entrepreneurship and building business. So for 30 years doing different things, there was never a space in between. Like I did like I was my hobby of interior decorating was going on while I was in corporate. So then I just moved into that. But while I was an interior decorator and owned my own business, I started my Mary Kay business. And while I was then sold my decorating business. Then while I was in Mary Kay, and that was probably about 8 to 10 years, God led us to open a fitness facility. So I was doing both. So imagine like the visual is like one foot in and one like legs on either side straddling. So never a break, never a break. And then 16 years. And that was a process too with the whole fitness, and we went through COVID, all of that. We'll hit that in a bit, but just to get to where in this journey of success, for me, all this striving and okay, it's not this, it must be that, you hear like chasing the shiny object. I was spending lots of money with coaches and lots of money with programs and lots of time and master, like all the stuff. Because I do think that, why reinvent the wheel? There's people that have gone before us and have paved the way and carved it out. So, I'm not one to think, well, I can do it myself. I'm just, I don't need anyone else. I'm all like, hey, I'll take all the support I can get wherever, like
bring everything
better than one. Yes, exactly. So part of that too, like with just all of this straddling one foot in here and one foot in here before I would let go or sell the other thing. And then, at the end, then 16 years of my life in the health and wellness and nutrition. And I knew that God was calling me to something else. But up until then, with all of that, some in my eyes, based on my previous definition of success, there was success, but then there also felt like a failure because at the same time, like I said, not once, twice, I put our family in debt. And if you look at this last business with my fitness business, this was a brick and mortar. So there's a lot of expenses that go into that. And ultimately, when I sold that business, I was at $140,000 of debt that had accumulated over a 6-7 year time period, probably in the last half of that. So here I am, knowing that God was calling me to something different, something more. Not like there needed to be more stuff in my life, but I knew there just always felt like something was missing, and I just couldn't figure it out. And all the striving and like, why is it this? Okay, there was still this hole, there was still this gap. And when I sold my business, is actually the month before we closed. I was already starting, like, what does this look like? I knew at that moment that I was called into this coaching space for women in particular. God just had really transformed my life, like inside out transformation. I got to a place that I knew I didn't want any woman to be in the space that I was in with her marriage, with her kids, now adult kids, or, growing them, being a mom, raising a family, or her husband, my husband having his own job, being in that whole career. But I knew where I was. I didn't want any woman to ever be in that space. And I just knew that God was calling me to either prevent them, help them from avoiding that, or if they're in it, to help them, step out of that. So I was ready after, in that last month before it closed, I was ready to move on to the next thing. And it was so interesting. My son, who was 23 at that time, said, are you going to take a break? And I was like, what do you mean by a break? Like, are you going to take a break? Like, working, like, are you just going to take a break from it all before you start the next thing? And I was like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. And he's like, no, you're not. I know you. You're on to the
next thing. I know.
I want to so much resistance.
So I want to hear, because
girl, we could be on here for 5 hours. Let me just tell you, there's so much.
I know.
But with that, let me just say this.
I know.
I never believed that I had a story. Like, I thought to myself, especially coming into this coaching space, like, who are you? You're normal. You had a really great childhood. Our family did not have a lot of wealth, from a financial standpoint, but we were never for lack. Like we were never in
Want.
need. My parents worked really hard. They taught me. I grew up on a chicken farm. We raised 150,000 chickens. Like I was a farm girl on the farm in a chicken coop raising chickens. Like I mean, I did all the stuff, but like we were so content, you know? So I don't even remember why I was telling you that. Anyway.
I think it's because we are so used to society telling us that success gets to look different than us, and which is why I started the show, right? Because what I just heard you share, being raised on a chicken farm. We by the way, we have such parallel. I wasn't on a farm, but we did raise chickens.
Okay.
So I know how to kill chickens too, and I know how to
Yes.
kill a goat.
Actually, roosters.
Yes.
Killing roosters.
Oh, yeah. See, what we killed chickens. My
Okay.
job,
Okay. Yeah, to
my
butcher.
job every Friday evening after school was to fill the orders, because we fill the orders on Fridays so that people can make their chicken soup on Saturday and their chicken stew on
There you
Sunday.
go.
That's just a
There you
Jamaican
go.
tradition, right?
Yeah.
So we had this whole thing. And so what I want to point out with what I heard from you just now was how, you were content, and I noticed you said wealthy. You actually said you were wealthy being on the chicken farm, but something said that this was not it, that it was supposed to be more. And then you stepped into this other world that caused you more pain than pleasure, right?
Yeah.
More pressure
Yeah.
than power, and the pressure to
Right.
perform
Right.
at,
Because
at, at a standard that's not even, you didn't create it,
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Growing up, my parents were very supportive. I mean, my dad used to say, I see you on stage. Whatever you want to do, you can do. You will be successful. So that's how I grew up. Like just not what do I want to say? Like they didn't just it wasn't like this silver spoon kind of thing. We knew what it meant to work hard, but I knew based on what my parents shared with me, we based on just growing up in the church and what I knew about my creator. Like I just knew that whatever I wanted to do, like there was nothing that would hold me back, no limitations. And so I remember what I had started to say was like, I get to this point and I'm like, who am I? I have no story. I'm normal. I'm ordinary. I didn't come from an abusive home. I didn't have an abusive marriage. I didn't have whatever. All of this. I wasn't homeless. Like I can think through even friends of mine that have these huge stories. And
huge
what did I do?
stories.
Yeah, I jumped into comparison.
Yeah. Do that,
like
right?
all the time. Like so yeah, so all of this striving, knowing that something was missing in my life, and my son is like, are you taking a break? And I'm thinking, okay, yeah. And he kept bringing it up, like probably over the next couple weeks during that last month that I owned my fitness business, he brought it up like another 2 or 3 times. And it got to a point where I just stopped and I said, am I not being the mom that you need me to be? Or like, are you more saying that for me? And he said,
Yeah.
I'm saying it for you. You've never had a space in between. And I was like, oh. So I started praying about it. And God was in agreement with my son and said, I'd like you to take a break. And so what do? I set my own agenda and my own schedule. I'm like, okay, fine, 3 months. It's October through December. I'll take a 3-month break. We'll see what it looks like. And I remember sharing with my mom. And my mom's like, I think your family was thinking more like a year off. I was like, yeah, well, that's not happening. A year? No way.
Hold that thought, because
Okay.
I want to ask you a question right here, because it's so good. You can't make this up.
No, you
The
can't.
question I want to ask you right here is, what was that feeling when your mom said it was more like a year? Your son said, let's start over.
Yeah.
Your son said, aren't you going to rest? And
Yeah.
you're looking like, what do you mean rest? right? And then you said, okay, fine, I'll do 3 months. And then your mother said, well, we were thinking more like a year. And then you said, oh, what? Are you kidding me? I want to hear from you. If you
Mhm.
think about it real
Mhm.
quick,
Yeah.
what was the thought process and or the feelings that came up in those two moments when you were like, huh, what are
Yeah.
you crazy?
Yeah. So
Do you
part of
remember
it
what those
was, yeah, part of it was like, "Ugh, this is what I want to do. Why do I have to stop because someone else thinks that I should do something different? Like they don't know
were?
my
Uh-huh.
life, like whether it was my mom, my son, like this is what I want to do. You're preventing me. You're like stopping me." And so there was a little bit of, I mean, there was a lot of resistance in that. And the
Uh-huh.
other thing was, it's funny because in the process of going, okay, fine, 3 months, I live in a
Mhm.
really small town. So I'd go to the coffee shop and everybody knows about your life. And so they're like, "Oh my gosh, how are you? You sold your fitness business, you retired. What are you doing with all your time?" And and until I reflected later, that's what I realized underneath what was going on, because there was so much resistance to be able to look at them and say, I have so much freedom right now. Like I literally have no schedule. I have no agenda. I'm spending time reading my Bible and praying and journaling. I don't know, like whatever, 2 hours in the morning, grabbing some coffee. I'm here at the coffee shop, spending time with my dogs. Like I was not about to tell people that I was doing nothing, nothing.
Why though?
I
See, I want
know,
to
because what I recognized was because everything that I was doing was totally
get.
tied to who I was. All the roles that I had was tied to who I
Uh-huh.
was, my identity. I put my identity in all of the stuff, all of the things. And what did
Yes.
that look like? My
Yes.
success. And then if I wasn't doing this, then
Yes.
I'm not successful. What was
Successful. You're a failure. What the
it?
hell?
I'm a
Right?
failure. And I was not about for anyone to think, especially those closest to me, especially my
Yes.
kids, my husband, because they would say, "Well, what would you do today?" Like there was so much guilt that I
Guilt.
I made a story about that because they, as I look back, they were they were just curious, like, "What'd you do
Yeah.
today?" Like, "Mom, I'm like," this is what was going through my son's head, I'm sure. "Mom, I'm so happy for you. Like, you actually don't have to be anywhere. You don't have to do anything. I'm so happy for you. What did you do today?" This is what I heard. "What did you do today? What
Uh-huh.
did you do today?
Like, why were you
Let me
being
get my
lazy
note
today?
let me get my notebook and compare my notes to what I think you should have." That's what I heard. That was my story. So of
Yeah.
course it was so tied into who I was. Now if
Yeah.
I'm doing nothing, then I'm nothing. I'm in this space of like there's too much of a gap. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that was
This is so good, girl. I
like
wanted
I
to hear.
said, I don't have a story, right? I don't have a story. Yeah. Lie, lie, lie.
I- that's so true though, because you know, Daniel, you don't understand how you're mirroring me right now, girl. I'm just saying. I was in this conversation with somebody last Saturday, and while she's telling me her story, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't have that kind of story. And I went into comparison about
Oh,
her
yeah.
life and the struggles that she went through. And I'm not saying my life was perfect, but
Mhm.
I went to, comparing a level of struggle, and I was like,
Yeah.
I had to catch myself in the conversation. This is why, I always teach about how living in awareness
Yep.
is the first. Y'all gonna get tired of hearing me saying it. I'm just saying, I'm caveating that. So for as long as God has me doing this show, you're gonna hear me say it every time. Awareness is the
Mm.
first step in
It is.
transformation.
Mhm.
Period. End
Yeah.
of story.
Yep.
When you become aware, you can catch yourself doing old habits that don't serve you anymore.
Mhm.
But just thinking about what you just shared, Danielle, about how that guilty feeling of, resting,
Mm.
how many
Yeah.
times do we feel like that? And rest is actually part of the game.
Right.
Resting doesn't mean that you're lazy.
Right.
Resting doesn't mean that you're not ambitious.
Mhm.
You know, coaches, especially athletic coaches, always talk about the the power of the pause.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
do.
girl, I literally, that pause ended up being the 9 months of the most amazing, amazing time. I mean, especially with Jesus, like every day I
Yes,
have downloads every single day, like move to tier downloads. But I literally ordered, this one says unleash. This necklace says unleash, but I have another necklace that's round, it's silver, and it has two marks as if it were a pause button, because I wanted something tangible to represent where I was, the most beautiful space that I was, the thing that I was resisting the most. And I still wear it because it reminds me, it takes me back to
reminder.
how
Yeah.
good God is. And every day, like all the time, nothing is wasted. And that pause has had such an impact on my life.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're using it throughout your continuing transformation, right?
Yeah,
Because you got to
yeah,
remember, this stuff is not something that's one and done. This is stuff
yeah,
that you're actually going back to remembering how to live, which is
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
And I love that you're embracing that process so much because like you said, you had so much resistance
Hmm.
before, and I'm sure resistance comes up every now and again, but now you know how to recognize it and shift
Yeah,
it and shift faster and faster and
yes,
faster, right? Because
yes.
everybody else around you isn't transforming at the same rate as you are, right?
Like 100% not.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I love that. So I want to talk about, because I don't want people to miss this piece either. Y'all, this transformation is no joke.
No
This
joke.
level of success is no joke.
Mhm.
So we're gonna go. You don't know what questions I'm asking you, so this
No, I'm
this
like,
is
hey,
good,
whatever. I'll
organic.
go with the flow.
I want to shift into, because some people think that there is no pain in the process.
Mm.
What would you say about that?
Oh, it's so interesting. Like, and this week, like even looking at my own self, and even talking with some of my clients, but also some other women that God has just brought across my path, like nothing is wasted. God wastes nothing. And so life is like, we were never promised that life was going to be easy, that we were going to be without pain or struggles or suffering. None of that. Like, we're living in on earth that is, that is, we're all aging. We're all like, everything around us is changing. And, but it's, the cool part is, and every time that I've gone through some kind of struggle or pain, and it hasn't, and for a long time, I would find myself kind of stuck there in that pain. And it was always about, like, I made it about me, in the
Mhm,
sense, like, what's wrong with me? Like, somebody would say something, my family would say something, and I would take their comment so personally, um, that I would go into the self beat up, and I would sit in this crap, this pain, this whatever, like, why am I
mhm,
not this? And why aren't they seeing this? And how come this? And why can't they change? And why does everything have to be, why am I the one going through this process all the time? And
mhm,
and there is a lot of pain in the process. But it is all, God will use it for his glory, and for my future, right? Like that verse in Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans for a hope and a future. Like, those plans that he has for us, because he allows us, right? We have free will. Like, I choose what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, how I'm stepping forward or not, or staying stuck. But the plans he has for me are not to harm me. Like, even though he allows us to go through things and be in pain and struggle, like, I will just look back. There's been a lot of hard things in my life. There has been a lot of, in my definition of hard and pain, with whether it's been in my marriage or with my relationship with my kids or the struggles that I've had in my business, all of the stuff, even friendships. And as I reflect back, is there anything that I wish never happened? To be honest with you, no, because I am where I am today. I'm who I am today because of all of that. Like God used
Yeah.
all of that to bring
Yeah.
me where I am. They weren't random happenstance. They weren't, some coincidence that all of a sudden, oh, my life took this turn, bad luck. I don't believe in that. Like there's a
Mhm.
purpose for everything.
Everything. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I totally agree with you on that. Totally agree. And I think that in any pain, whether it's pain of the process
yeah,
or even physical pain, right?
yeah,
I teach my
mm,
clients that whatever pain it is, it's an opportunity
yeah.
actually to ask different questions of the pain, like literally
Yeah.
ask, what is this teaching me? Because everything is a learning. Everything, I believe that everything is
I
a
believe
learning.
it is too. But
And
you have to recognize it that way, right? You can be a victim. Like it's easy to be a victim and like, why is this happening to me? What is wrong with me? All of this stuff. But yeah, I
yes.
agree with that. Like, what
So
is
just
going on? Like, what do I need to focus on? What do I get to focus on? Where do
yeah,
I get to shift in this? Because yeah, I have a tear. I have two tears going on my hip right now. I'm waiting to see the orthopedic, and that's caused there's been a lot of pain. My dog pulled me over a year and a half ago on the street, and I broke my arm. Like there was a lot of pain in that. But it's
yeah,
like, all right, what is how do I use this? How is God going to use this in my life to continue to grow who I am? And
yeah,
not just who I am, like dependent upon myself, but like, how do I really get to step into fully trusting and surrendering in this process and this journey of life, whatever it looks like?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you said something about identity earlier on in the conversation. I want to talk about that a little bit more. We're almost close to ending, but I want to talk about identity a little bit because I think it's one of the things I teach, how to actually get to your authentic identity. But I want to hear your take on it. You said that you had to um, sift through identity on who you are today. Share some more like tips or tricks or uh, into lose you.
Oh,
Did I lose
yes,
you?
here I
I
am.
did.
Yeah, no, it just paused for just a minute. Okay, say what you said. Share more tips about what?
About how you move through the different stages of your transformation to get
Mm,
to the identity you have of yourself today.
yeah. Hmm. So interesting. Goodness. I part of this whole journey and process with this transformation is when I was going through some leadership training, my mentor said, I definitely see huge changes in your life, but there is still something like there's still something about you that you get to unleash. And I was like, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. Like show up messy. Like I love makeup. Like I was a Mary Kay. Like I love makeup. I love dressing up, but I also can, you know, get in the dirt with the best of them, growing up on the farm, all that kind of stuff. But like I love to take care of myself. I love to pamper myself. I love to get massages and all of that. But so I'm thinking, what does unleash look like? I get to go around my small little community with no makeup on. Okay, maybe I don't know. Like I literally was like pressing into that. What does this look like? And and God just showed me some amazing things. Like part of what does it look like? I mean, to unleash, like live unleashed for myself. Um, all of the comparison with so many things, comparison, um, people pleasing, so many
Ooh,
areas of my
that
life.
one.
I found people pleasing. I wasn't doing. I stayed open for 9 years of my business on a Sunday because I was in this mode of people pleasing. I just didn't want to close. I would let people down. I didn't want them to be upset with me. And God just led me to a place, like it got so hard that I was the one having to show up when people were calling off, and it was affecting the price my family was paying. I was paying
Yeah. Yeah, I can
all
imagine.
of that. And so like the people pleasing, like letting that go, finally letting that go. And my son's like, Mom, I am so happy for you. I'm just sad it took you 9 years. Like, because I was in this people pleasing, like most of my life was people pleasing, even being at home, always wanting my parents to be pleased with me. And I was the oldest of three. So that could have been part of that. But the striving, all the striving to prove myself, to prove my worth, to prove who I was, like God was starting to like make me aware of these, I call them strongholds. They're like strongholds in
Yeah,
my life that were preventing
absolutely.
me from being fully who he created and called me to be. And like, I was so leashed up to all of those things. And like you said, like, becoming aware. So like part of, again, during this 9-month pause, like God was just like downloading things to me. And it's so funny because when I actually started my Live Unleashed coaching business, I was like, oh my word, who am I? What am I going to talk about? I have no content. I have no content. And I almost audibly, God was like, okay, those 9 months that I was giving you downloads every day. Do you know how much content you have, girl? Like, I was like, oh my word. So just
Wake
this
up,
process,
girl.
I know, just this whole process of like recognizing these strongholds in my life. And it's not like, part of this unleashing is uncovering, okay, what are these
Yeah.
strongholds? You also have superpowers, right? It's like
Mhm.
the gifts, the gifts, the goal that God has given you. How do you walk in that? How do you uncover that? But also your strongholds, because sometimes these strongholds don't go away. Like all of a
Mhm.
sudden, I have learned how to like catch myself, recognize right away, become aware of when I'm people pleasing. It's not that I'll never people please. It's like when it comes around, like I'm aware, I recognize the fact, oh, I'm in this people pleasing mode right now. What does that look like to stand on my superpower? And like this is what I know too. The things that we think are our weaknesses are actually God uses them as our strengths. And
Superpower.
that is our
Yeah.
superpower. Yes. So part of that, like just uncovering, because when you realize that these things you've tied into who you are and your worth, like that kind of changes, it can change the trajectory and the steps that you take forward, because you haven't uncovered it. But then once you uncover, like, what does it look like to unravel? So you have this stronghold and you just start unraveling. Kind of think of a ball of yarn or a leash, and you getting ready to take your dogs out, and
Like to walk and you limb.
unravel. And as you dig deeper, like then you realize, wait, there's a bunch of knots in this. Like it's not even just like, recognizing certain things. Then as you look deeper, it's like, oh, this has really had a grip in my life. And then what does it look like to start untangling that? Like literally taking these knots apart. And then what does it look like to unleash? So, there's a lot of healing that goes on, because there's a lot of, shame or guilt around, as you look back and reflect, the enemy can also use that to like keep you in this beat up mode of yourself, because you haven't forgiven yourself, you haven't forgiven others. And so I think there's a healing process that comes as part of that. And then
Absolutely.
yeah, and then
Absolutely.
rebuilding, right? There's like this rebuilding of truth, of your identity, who God says that you are, like who you are and whose you are. So there's this like rebuilding process. And two, like, what does it look like really learning to trust, be in complete
Mm,
trust? I don't just mean in words of like, okay, Lord, I trust
trust
you with
you.
whatever's
No.
going on. It's really easy to say, I surrender, I give it to you. But like, what does it truly look like to trust? Because if you trust, then no matter how it's happening right before you, how things are untangling, unfolding in front of you, if you jump back in and try to take control back because it doesn't look like the way that you thought it should look, like, am I really trusting? Am I really trusting the Lord, like with my life and my future? Or am I like, oh, this is not how it's supposed to look. I don't trust you. And I'm taking the reins. And I think part of the trust process too is like looking back at your past, and allowing, like trusting that your past has a purpose, like where you are, it affects where you are, it affects your future, but it doesn't have to affect it in a negative way. Like
Yeah.
trusting the story, trusting your past, um, And two, like just reconnecting with like your heart's desires, and that do for me, like, are my heart's desires really aligned? What do I want? Like, is that aligned with what God wants for my life? Because if he wants what's best for me and my best, then why do I want to be like, I'm not going that way. I'm going to do this thing because I know that this is the right thing. This is the thing that I really want. Like, God knows the desires of my heart. And so if I truly am trusting and living unleashed, then I get to like continue to walk and trust that he's walking ahead of me and behind me and beside me. And he already knows nothing that happens in my life is a surprise, right?
Well,
Nothing.
it can be,
Nothing.
right? It can be
Well, I mean,
because
to me, it is a surprise, right? But to him,
well,
isn't it?
well. So this girl, you're taking this into a whole nother show.
Her too.
Because the scripture that came up to me just now when you said that, talking about trust and all the things, right? It is the one that talks about love, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a scripture, I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember exactly I've never been one to memorize the chapter
Yeah.
and verse. I just
Yeah.
memorized the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that says, um, um, love God, love your neighbor as
Mm-hmm.
you love yourself.
Yeah.
So if you translate that,
Mm-hmm.
you, with trust
Yeah.
God, trust your neighbor, yeah, to some level, as you trust yourself. When I read that, I read, you got to trust you
Yes.
because God is the one who put the desire in your
Yes.
heart. So
Exactly.
he already knows.
Yes.
He
Yes.
already knows. He's waiting for you to catch up,
Yes.
right?
And sometimes, and I find how many times do we pray about something like, okay, like, Lord, show me, show me, show me. And he gives us the opportunities. He's literally like showing us exactly what next step to take. And either
And
we're
you're
not
trusting it.
recognizing it,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
we're not walking in it, and we're not trusting. And it's
Trusting.
like, we keep praying like, God, where are you? Are you not here? And
Yeah,
he already answered us. and
yeah,
and we're
yeah,
allowing fear or whatever it is, comparison, people pleasing, to get in the way, that stronghold to get in the way
yeah.
of stepping in that. And true, like and part of that process is really stepping into that identity. And
Identity. Yeah,
so
it's
powerful.
identity of who you are
Yeah.
in him and in the world, right?
Yes,
Who you came
yes,
here to be.
yes,
Like
yes.
he sent us on a mission.
Yeah.
I believe that,
Me too. Yeah, we all have a purpose. We were all created with a purpose. And I think too,
right?
part of the whole identity is tied into your purpose, because when you're not really clear, 100% clear on who you are and who you're created to be, it's your purpose is fuzzy. Like, it's the expectations of everyone else that we've taken, on, and what everybody else thinks it should look like. And so then it gets muddy, and then we're like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Right,
So
right,
yeah,
right,
that's
right.
really a
But here's
foundation.
the thing, though, and I want to say this because whoever's, I see some people on. Welcome, welcome. Hey, we have a couple more minutes. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll answer them. For those of you who are watching on the replay, it's going to be on YouTube. Put it in the comments as well. I do come back and I will respond to all the comments. So here's the thing, Danielle. If we don't trust ourselves, bottom line, if we don't trust ourselves, that is going to keep us stuck, right?
100%.
And getting to purpose is not okay. So here's my belief, and I've
Yeah.
done the research, I've read the
Mhm.
word, done all the things. You gotta find your purpose,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because, and the reason why I say that is because if you look at life as seasons, in every season, there is a purpose.
Mhm.
Every season is a purpose, right? If you look at
Yeah.
the farmer isn't planting seed every day. He's
Right.
planting this in a certain season. Then he waters the seed so that he can harvest in another season.
Right.
So purpose means that you got to keep moving
Yeah.
and being obedient in it, right? In the process, life is a process. It's not a destination, right? So
Absolutely.
keeping in the movement of life as you're learning, as you're going through the pain, like we discussed today, right? As you're
Yeah.
going to figuring out your identity, right? But you can't figure it out on your own. I got to tell you that. You got to have God
Mm.
at your head, whoever God is for you. You got to have God at the head, and you got to have support in real time, right? Because you can't see your own blind spots. Yeah. So
Right.
going through that process is a that's the game. That's the game.
Mm. It's a
Going through the
journey.
process is the
Yeah.
game. There is no destination. It's a
Mhm.
journey. At the
Mhm.
end of one journey, at the end of one season, another one is going to come in. That's why we
Right.
have different kinds of fruit. All fruits is not the same fruit.
Right. Yeah,
Right? Right? All
exactly.
trees are not the same tree. And by the way, I always say we're all trees, just saying, rooted and grounded. Yes, we are.
Yes.
So be gracious with yourself. Don't
Mhm.
stay stuck in the unknown, because
Right.
that's actually an invitation for you to take action, right?
Yes,
It's an invitation for you to take
definitely.
action.
Mhm.
So Danielle, what last words would you like to leave with our audience today? I wanted to talk
Mhm.
about something else, but I don't think we have enough time. But so what do you want to leave with us?
Yeah, I think just going back to knowing that even if you're in a season where you are just like, what is happening, and I don't feel like God hears me, and if he did, why am I still here? um there is a process, it is a journey, it is, that's what life is all about. And God doesn't waste anything. If you truly trust that, like, he won't waste anything. And so, like, even as you think about success, and who you are and the success that you want to have, or what you believe it should look like, here's the thing. One
Mhm.
day, like, none of that will matter. Like the physical wealth, any of the success, the accolades, the none of that matters, right? Like, for me, my new definition of success is, Lord, did I steward everything that I have in my life well? Like, I
Mhm.
want the Lord to say, well done, good and faithful servant. Like, did I steward my relationships well? Did I steward what I've been blessed with well? Am I stewarding my gifts well? The resources that He's provided, the opportunities, like, am I really, like, taking that? I don't want anything to be wasted, right? And so going through the process is all part of it. Going through the journey is all part of that. And how do we steward even this pain that we're in? You know,
Mhm.
he will use it for our good. What the enemy means to harm us, he will use it for his good and for our good. So yeah, that's what I
I
would
love
like.
that. I love that. And tell people where they can find you, and then I'll do some closing words for.
Yeah. So you can find me. I just launched a new website. I'm on Facebook. My name, Danielle Childs. That's where I'm at a lot. But you can also email me at Danielle@liveunleashedcoaching.com. You can message me on Facebook. And then liveunleashedcoaching.com
Your
is
website.
my website. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for being here. This was super, super fun. We gotta do this
I
again because
appreciate
I heard
you.
so many other topics
Oh
that
my
came. You
goodness.
saw me making notes, right? I'm like, oh, we gotta talk about that. We gotta talk about that. We gotta talk about that. So here's the thing, guys. Thank you for being here on this Saturday. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to come be with us. And let's keep the conversation going. I want to hear your thoughts. What was the thing that you heard that landed for you that you're going to take action on, that you, if you want support on, that you're going to reach out to one of us for that for you? Because here's the thing, we're all here on assignment. And if you are not stepping into your assignment, well, my thing is, success is going to keep avoiding you. So you got to
Right.
step into that for yourself. And if you're already successful, what's the next season for you,
Mhm.
right? Because here's the
Yeah.
one thing I know, there's more. There's
Yeah.
always more. Which leads me to share with you guys that I have a masterclass this Wednesday, the 28th at 5 p.m. Central, called Built for More Masterclass. And I would love you to join me. The link to join that is in the comment on YouTube under this recording. And here's what I want to leave with you guys today. You don't have to prove who and what you already are.
Mm.
You just get to uncover it. And as Danielle said, you get to unleash it once you uncover it. All
Mhm.
right. So
Yeah.
thank you for being here on the Success Code Fireside Chats. I just want to tell you how grateful I am. So go ahead and like, subscribe. And by the way, put on notifications so you know when we're live and when we have new content. And bring your friends. Let's join the conversation. The more we talk about this, is the more we're going to shift the consciousness of this planet and do more good. So
Yeah.
thank you for being here.
Thanks, Lorna. Bye, guys.